So I'm sure you've all heard of CarFax. They're the people who pull together all the information about your car's history. And as it says on the CarFax website, a car's history affects its value. You wouldn't spend now $5,000 on a used car without checking its CarFax. So therefore, any car with a CarFax has a greater value. And why is it so valuable? Well, CarFax pulls together electronically all of the data you need. Has it had any accidents? What's the service history? How has it been used? What's the ownership history? And it does that all automatically for you. And you can see if you just having a partial view of that, like, oh, you know about its service history, but you didn't know about its accidents, or you didn't know that the mileage was correct. Suddenly that impacts the value and the risk of buying that car. So an org's history affects its value. So maybe we have OrgFax. So an understanding about the org's history genuinely impacts its value to the business, but also its value in terms of how we improve it. So what do we mean by that? If I think about, we call it ConfigKnowledge, maybe it's the org's history rather than OrgFax. But ConfigKnowledge is the combination of the business analysis. So what feedback did we get from end users? Where did we capture the requirements, the process maps that we've created to document the way the business works, the entity relationship diagrams, and then the user stories that we created to go and make changes to Salesforce. So that's an important part of the history of how we've actually, the org has evolved. But then there's the analysis of the org. So what's building the metadata dictionary, and then also building the industry's metadata, which is stored in a different format. It's just stored as metadata, it's stored as records. Then looking at the tech debt, so analysis of the levels of tech debt of an org. The field usage, how well populated are fields, but more importantly, not just how well populated they are, but also where are they used. And then the impact analysis, if we make changes, what is the impact? Right down into, say, levels of dependency, which is if I touch this field, that field is used by that custom field, which is used in that report, which is used in that dashboard. Knowing that spider chart, that whole picture of the org gives us valuable insights into how easy it is to change. If we're looking at maybe org consolidation or merges, if we're looking at paying down technical debt. This analysis is really important to make sure that we can make sensible decisions and prioritize the effort, maybe for paying down tech debt or for our merges. But again, Salesforce is, yes, it's the customer's 360 view, but it's not in isolation. It is connected to other systems. It's connected to Jira, maybe through when they're starting to raise tickets. It's connected to Tableau in terms of reporting and analytics. And clearly with the Slack first world now, more and more we're going to be connecting Salesforce to Slack. We're connected to Pardot, but then external to Salesforce, NetSuite, Workday, SAP. So those integrations to other systems are part of that org config knowledge. And finally, we have documentation. So maybe it's in siloed hard disks, but some documentation we can generate automatically for you because of the metadata APIs. You could import some of that documentation maybe from systems integrators, or maybe it's third-party created documentation, or you've now gone and manually created it. Again, that documentation can't sit in isolation. It needs to be connected so that it's the power in the connection, knowing that all of this stuff together. Back to our analogy for CarFax, it's no good having the service history, but actually having 2 bits of information about an accident, but not knowing the ownership. So a partial history is actually really is scarier than having no history at all, actually. You think because you know that a field has got no data in it, you know you're confident you can make some changes, but not knowing where that field is used, or it's used in a third-party integration, really important. So actually, having a partial history gives you a false sense of security. Back to, oh, we bought this car, we know it's had its full service history, but you weren't aware of any of the accidents. Again, way scarier. So we're calling this OrgFax, we're calling it configuration knowledge, and it starts with a metadata dictionary. And again, in Elements, we're building those metadata dictionaries for you. For the platform, for industries, for Jira, Slack, but again, for any system where you can build out that metadata dictionary. So you've got a list of all the metadata. Again, take an example close to home. We use Jira. We created a manual Jira metadata dictionary from the things that we knew about. We had about 500 items. We then synced it to Jira, 5,000 metadata items. So there's a whole ton of stuff we just didn't realize that we had configured or was in there. And suddenly we've now got a clearer picture. The same is true for Slack. Slack is a massively powerful platform. It's not just chat. You can build workflows, you can install applications, right? 2,500 applications sitting out there on the equivalent of the App Exchange for Slack. And people can use those to start to connect Salesforce and other systems and really power that sort of human-centric process flow. But again, we need to know that those connections exist to make sure we can make sensible decisions about how we change the org. So that's the metadata dictionary, but clearly we also need to connect it to the business analysis information that may be created inside Elements. So capturing the feedback, capturing the requirements. Obviously, you know us for business process mapping, so those business process maps. But you can also build entity relationship diagrams in Elements. Clearly, you can document or user stories connected back to the requirements and the business analysis. We've got releases, versioning, you can build compliance models, there's training material. So that needs to be connected back to your metadata dictionary, connected back to those metadata items, and not just the Salesforce ones, but the other systems. But you may also have your own content you've created, and it's sitting in Google and SharePoint or in Atlassian Box. You may have created process maps in Lucidchart or in Google Slides. And maybe you've got there your DevOps tools, Jira, Rally, GearSet, Capado, Provar, all of those tools where you've got content. We need to connect that back into the metadata dictionary. So you've got this complete picture of your org. And that's what we call ConfigKnowledge. So Salesforce is the innovation engine. That's clearly true. And we need to make sure it's in a position where we can support rapid continuous change. And we can only do that with confidence if we have that ConfigKnowledge in place. So we think the best run orgs have mastered ConfigKnowledge. So that means that you as platform owners, as developers, as admins, you can focus on innovation rather than about worrying about the past. Talk to us. Let's run a proof of concept. It takes a couple of minutes to get it set up, and suddenly we're building up that ConfigKnowledge picture for you.